Yo everyone, Star the Protagonist is here. Firstly, I want to make an apology for what I said at the end of my last game review. For those of you who don't know, my last review on the game was Hazelnut Hex, and in that video I stated that Fortnite Festival would be the next review in late January. However, I never really got around to it. I probably should have during the Hatsune Miku season, but that ended up being a video talking about the current state of the mode, as well as the up and coming at the time season centering around Sabrina Carpenter. If you want to check that video out, the link will be in the top right corner so you can watch it for yourselves to give your thoughts on it. I genuinely apologize for not living up to that. However, I wanted to make it up to you all. A few weeks ago, I ran a poll giving you all the chance to vote for which game or sets of games I should review first. And that leads up to today's review. After winning by 1 vote surprisingly against the King of Fighters 14 and 15, as well as the title of the video, I'll be looking at the Nekopara series. Nekopara was created by Sayori, a Chinese-Japanese artist who's also the founder of NekoWorks, the developer behind Nekopara. The series centers on our protagonist, Kasho Minaduki, who comes from a family of long chefs who will run away to open his own patisserie called La Soleil, despite his parents' wishes. However, he's accompanied by his younger sister Shigure, who has a brother complex, as well as their family of catgirls. See, Nekopara takes place in a world where humans and catgirls live together, and the Minaduki siblings has a family of 6 catgirls. Chocolate and Vanilla are twin catgirls that are both mixed breed, with Chocolate being the brown-haired catgirl who's very happy-go-lucky, and Vanilla being the white-haired catgirl with a kudere personality, but loves Chocolate to the point where she'll follow her anywhere she goes. Despite being the tallest catgirl in the family, Coconut's the 3rd youngest and is a Maine Coon, which is a large cat. She has heterochromia, with her left eye being blue and her right eye being yellow. And she's also the 2nd bustiest of the 6, so I guess you could say Coconut's got a nice pair of coconuts. She's considered as the cool type by others, but she wants to be more cute than cool. But her physical appearance says otherwise. You can't tell me she doesn't look more sexy than cool or cute. However, her expressions and personality are totally cute to me. Cinnamon's the 3rd shortest and the 3rd oldest of the family, and she also has the largest bust size of the catgirls in the family. So yeah, Cinnamon's got some pretty big cinnamon rolls. She's also a Scottish fold cat and will often interpret things in a sexual manner, causing her to get very horny. But those are the reasons why she's my personal favorite. Maple's the 2nd oldest of the family. She's an American curl cat and has a more independent, mature type of personality. But she's a bit of a scaredy cat, as she does not like walking around in the dark, nor does she like anything that's remotely scary. She also has a hint of tsundere in her, but Azuki has her beat in that category, for not only is she the oldest despite being a munchkin cat, but she's more of a tsundere herself, plus she often gets into fights with Coconut the most. It's a very unique cast, bringing her own flair into the mix, as well as cultivating a very sizable fan base. The series started with Nekopara Volume 1 on December 29th of 2014. Then on August 17th of 2015, they released Nekopara Volume 0. 6 months after that, Nekopara Volume 2 was released, and over a year later, on May 26, 2017, Nekopara Volume 3 was released. And after the release of the 4th entry, NekoWorks ran a Kickstarter on a Nekopara OVA, and after reaching a stretch goal of over $800,000, they got to work on the OVA and was titled Nekopara Extra: The Kitten's First Promise, released on July 27th of 2018. And for the first time in the Nekopara series, it would take them more than 2 years to work on the next title, which would be Nekopara Volume 4, released on November 26th of 2020. Now, as a disclaimer to those who are watching this afterwards, I'm recording this before the 6th main entry comes out, which is Nekopara After La Vraie Famille, set to release on May 23rd of this year. So if you're asking why I could have just waited until the 6th main title came out, well, during 2018, the series was ported over to the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. And as you can tell, I do not have Steam, and my laptop isn't strong enough to run Steam games on there. So I'm reviewing the Switch version of each entry in the series. But that just leads into the second reason. Nekopara is a visual novel series of eroge, Eroge is a Japanese genre of erotic video games, something that contains a lot of erotic content. Games like Akiba Girls, Criminal Girls, and Emoto Paradise. Hell, some eroge will end up having anime adaptations. The Fruit of Grisaia, Magikoi, School Days, Shuffle, Bakure Romanze, and of course, Yosuga no Sora. There are many different gameplay genres of eroge, such as RPGs, puzzles, mahjong, and of course, visual novels, and Nekopara is no exception. I cannot show the full images here, but use your imagination. While Nintendo is no stranger to allowing games to have slight nudity in their eShop for the Nintendo Switch, there's a fine line that shouldn't be crossed. They obviously don't allow erotic games onto their platform, and neither does Sony. So in order for Nekopara to be added onto those platforms, NekoWorks had to remove the explicit naughty scenes and nudity. And to make sure I don't get this channel taken down or this video age restricted, I'll be looking at the Switch version of the series, so I hope you understand my decision. But to be fair, all 5 main entries each have an all-age version, which is the same as the Switch and PS4 versions. So it doesn't really matter which version you go with, as long as it's not the 18+ version. But with all that being said, in about 6 minutes, let's finally dive into the games themselves. Every entry has an extra mode where you can view the CGs, the OST, or the opening and ending of each game. You also have to make sure you save the game before closing it, otherwise you'll run the risk of restarting from where you last saved. You can also figure the controls to your liking so you'll have a good time throughout each entry, and to make it even more amazing, there's a chest bounciness setting where you can increase or decrease the bounciness of each of the catgirl's boobs. So you can see them bounce and jiggle throughout each cutscene, as well as Vanilla and Azuki's A-cups. NekoWorks, you are all Giga Chads for that. One thing I need to mention here before I forget, reviewing all 6 of these games requires me to go through the story for each one. So if you haven't played them yet, I suggest you stop watching this video, play the games for yourself, and come back. Now that we have that warning out of the way, I would appreciate it if you all subscribe to the channel and turn those notifications on if you want to see more cultured content like this. Just a shameless plug-in before we start. But with all that being said, it's time we dive into the first game on the list. So before we cover Volume 1, let's cover the extra stories, since they do take place before the beginning of Volume 1. And we're starting things off with Nekopara Extra, the Kitten's First Promise. 6 months before the events of Volume 1, both Kasho and Shigure found a box in the rain with 2 little kittens inside. As they took the 2 little kitten girls home, they were named Chocolate and Vanilla and were adopted into the family. Throughout this entry, you'll see the 2 try their best to fit in with the family, and as they grow older, they will end up getting closer and closer. It's a very wholesome beginning of the life of the Minaduki family, and I apologize if I haven't dived too deep into this entry, but nothing groundbreaking or serious actually happens. Still, this is a very good start for the story of the Minaduki family. Next up is Volume 0, as it also takes place before Volume 1. It's also the shortest entry in the series as it runs for an hour and a half long. Volume 0 follows the daily life of the Minaduki household. After finding out that Kasho and his parents left, this gives Shigure and the cat girls a whole day to themselves. So at 9 AM they tried making breakfast, but both Azuki and Maple ended up fighting each other because the latter was not pleased with doing chores. So it ended up with a messy kitchen and breakfast ended up being cat food. At 10 AM, Cinnamon and Coconut were washing dishes, with Coco trying her best not to drop any dishes, but she ended up accidentally breaking Azuki's bowl. And she was close to breaking Shigure's bowl, but ended up saving it in the nick of time. This would impress Chocolate and Vanilla, with Cinnamon remarking that Coconut is like a dad trying to impress his kids. That's when she ends up having a delusion of her being a mom, causing her to drool. This cat girl can't go one day without getting moist, I swear. At 11 AM, it's pretty silly. The 6 cat girls were very curious about an air freshener on top of the shelf, to the point where shit went left and catastrophes kept happening one by one. And they ended up getting scolded by Shigure. Then there's the laundry at 12 PM, Shigure ordering lunch at 1 PM, taking the cat girls out for a walk at 2 PM, preparing and eating dinner between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m., where they begin to watch TV for 30 minutes, and then finally they ended up taking a bath at 8:30. And I love how Coco feels envious towards Cinnamon about her body while washing her back, and Cinnamon just telling her that she should be proud of her development and bust size. And I couldn't agree more. Coconut's got it going on with both her height and bust size. And then Azuki felt insulted, resulting in her splashing cold water on Cinnamon, making her fall into a state of ecstasy. Real petty on Azuki's end, but not as petty as pointing out Maple's fear of the dark. Anyone would be afraid of the dark, you petty ass munchkin. And I love how Cinnamon tries to break up the fight, but ends up having her naughty pillow slapped by the two, resulting in her getting excited yet again. For fuck's sake, she needs a chastity belt with her horny ass. But aside from all the funny hijinks, that last scene of all the cat girls squeezed onto Shigure's bed and just snuggled up against each other is a very wholesome moment. A very perfect way to end a prologue to what's in store for the main story. Okay, now we can get into the entry that flagshipped this series. It's been 4 years since I bought the first volume. I remember during mid-2021 when I first got the game, but I never touched it yet. It wasn't until Hurricane Ida hit where we ended up with no power for 2 weeks. So during that time, we had a power generator and I had my Nintendo Switch on me. And I ended up getting back to playing Puyo Puyo Tetris, and I finally started playing Dual Nekopara Volume 1. And I loved every single bit of it. If you want to see my experience playing this volume, link to the video will be on the top right corner. Volume 1 begins with Kasho setting up his own patisserie, La Soleil. He got the packages he needed to completely set up his place, but little did he know he would end up with 2 furry surprises. Both Chocolate and Vanilla snuck their way into 2 of Kasho's packages to make their way here. Of course, Kasho was not having it, so he tried to call Shigure, but with no answer, confirming that she was behind the 2 cat girls being shipped over to Kasho's patisserie. More on that later. With no other way to contact his sister, Kasho's now stuck with Chocolate and Vanilla for the time being. They ended up going shopping for a while, and on their way home, they met a young cat girl named Milk. She and her owner runs a takoyaki stand and would give the 3 free takoyaki. Kasho still insists that Chocolate and Vanilla should head back home as he is set on opening up his patisserie, but the 2 ultimately refused, and this ended up being a chase around the room. He eventually caved in and will let them sleep for the night. The next day arrives and Kasho is still persistent in bringing the twins back home even after they helped them out with the tableware seller. Sunset would hit, and after hearing Chocolate and Vanilla's heartfelt pleas to let them stay with him, Kasho finally caves in and will let them stay. This, in my opinion, was the most heartfelt moment in this volume. The 2 cat girls were dedicated to stay by Kasho's side, no matter the circumstances. You can truly see the deep emotions that Chocolate is going through, because she doesn't want to separate from her owner again. It shows that these 3 have grown up together and has had such fond memories ever since they were kittens. And it will also be the start of Kasho learning to rely more on others around him whenever he needs it, because sometimes he can't always do things on his own, no matter how much he tries. You'll see more of this at the end of the volume, as well as the sequels. With Chocolate and Vanilla now living with Kasho, the 2 will also start working alongside him to manage his patisserie. They look really cute in their uniforms, and I didn't expect the sudden panty shots, but I'm not complaining. After noticing the business cards, Vanilla would ask for one, totally not for a certain other owner. Afterwards, the trio would end up going shopping yet again, with Kasho trying to find the right books about cat girls. Makes sense considering that he now has 2 that are living with him, and he needs to know what to do whenever they're in certain situations. Chocolate and Vanilla started practicing how to greet customers and how to make desserts. However, they would end up spilling custard all over them and had to be bathed. And cue the beautiful CG. The next day, we see a short purple-eyed woman in a trench coat and shades. And who the hell uses their middle finger to adjust their shades? Now, it's actually Shigure, and she brought along the other cat girls. It was only a matter of time before the family were united once again. But remember that business card Vanilla asked for? Turns out she actually slipped under Kasho's radar at the drugstore to give the card to Shigure. And Shigure also admits that she was behind Chocolate and Vanilla, storing away in the boxes to follow Kasho. So everything was planned by her from the start. The things she would do to reunite with her big brother is insane. But I respect her dedication and how she planned things out. That was just really clever on her end. She knew that Kasho would let Chocolate and Vanilla stay with him. She also informs him that the two cat girls need their independent action permit, in other words, a cat barrel. It's required for cat girls to have in order to be employed and to be out and about. Otherwise, they'll get arrested by the cops. And while these four have their permits, they're still the same rambunctious cat girls going at each other's throats. Also, seeing that Shigure was the one who made Kasho's room all girly was pretty funny. After seeing the two twins working hard at their job, Kasho decides to reward them with cheesecake. Okay, where's the fucking address? I need to know ASAP so I can buy all their cheesecake, for fuck's sake. Time goes by, and the cat barrel training begins. From Maple teaching Chocolate how to use a smartphone, to Cinnamon teaching Vanilla the birds and the bees, this cat barrel training was all over the place. But after the training, Chocolate and Vanilla were able to earn their bells. The trio decided to go out for a bit, and Kasho would say something that would immediately flip a switch in Chocolate's head. Needless to say, this would cause Chocolate to slowly fall into heat, to the point where she climaxed in her bed. And it wasn't until Kasho and Vanilla found out after noticing how odd she was acting. So of course, Kasho had to tend to Chocolate's aroused state. And if you're playing the 18+ version, I'm sure you know what happens next. And to save some time, this will also happen to Vanilla. She ended up getting jealous of Chocolate, causing her to fall into heat as well, and cue the smoochy CG and 18+ scene. Soon they would go on their first date, having a really fun time, and I love how they thought Kasho was cheating on them when he was having a convo with the staff woman. And then they talking about stuffing wasabi into his underwear. That's a bit extreme, don't you think? Well, at least the night ended with him being spoon-fed omelet rice, as well as another 18+ scene that I cannot show because YouTube rules. However, the next morning, Kasho came down with chronic fatigue, meaning you can get very tired and will not notice it anymore. So of course, being the worried little sister, Shigure threatens him into closing shop and recovering. However, his fever has gotten even worse, causing the twins to be extremely worried. So they headed out to find a doctor, only for the clinic to be closed. And to make things even worse, they were approached by a police officer who noticed that they weren't wearing their cat bells. God damn it, you two! They tried to reason with her, but to no avail. Luckily, a sickly Kasho rushed to their aid, giving them their bells and headed home. The next morning, as Kasho fully recovered, the next thing he sees is Shigure as well as all 6 cat girls in the uniforms. Shigure figured that by having more workers, it would lessen the burden on Kasho. And so, the story ends with Kasho now having a total of 7 pairs of helping hands for Neko Paradise. I apologize if I missed any details, but this is a 5-hour-long visual novel, and just highlighting every single detail for each volume may take up to 2 hours, trust me. Regardless, Nekopara Volume 1 was a pretty good start from the franchise, selling over 110,000 copies within 8 months of its release. NekoWorks definitely had a hit visual novel in their hands, and like every other successful game, a sequel was needed. 6 months after the release of Nekopara Volume 0, Nekopara Volume 2 was served. This time, it focuses on the 3rd youngest cat girl, Coconut, and the oldest yet bossy little cat girl, Azuki. During my time getting used to Fortnite back in late 2023, I ended up buying Volumes 2 and 3 of Nekopara, which were on sale at the time. I ended up playing Volume 2 first, and despite only focusing on Coconut and Azuki, this ended up being my favorite volume of the series. Business has been rolling smoothly as usual, with both Coconut and Azuki having their little skirmish, and it ended up getting physical, with Shigure taking pictures of the whole thing out of frustration. Afterwards, Kasho noticed that Coconut is feeling down, believing that she's not good at anything around the bakery. So he takes her on a delivery alongside chocolate and vanilla, hoping that it will cheer up the main coon. But no progress has been made, unfortunately. Shortly after, the four will run into Milk once again, and thankfully Coconut's spirits have been lifted because of her. Milk noticed her owner on the other side of the road and would run towards her, and without paying attention, a car was close to hitting her, but thankfully Coconut saves her in the nick of time. And as thanks, they were rewarded with free takoyaki yet again. And it wasn't long before Azuki found out and got on their asses. Hell, even the dialogue couldn't hesitate to call them dumbass catgirl sisters. This game really taking pot shots. I like it. Azuki then thanks Kasho for cheering Coconut up, despite feeling a little embarrassed after what happened earlier. And then we see Chocolate and Vanilla annoyed that Kasho has been spending more time with Shigure and the other catgirls, and declared that they should receive more attention. And receive more they shall through gentle ear cleaning, bath time, and sexy time, if you catch my drift. Unfortunately, the twins would find out that they have to retake the cat bell test to maintain their bells. This leaves Kasho and the other girls to hold down the bakery for a few days until Shigure and the twins come back. After overhearing Azuki's criticism about her, Coconut asked Kasho to give her special training to prove Azuki that she can help around the bakery. But 30 minutes into the training and she couldn't get a single thing done, which ended up with her breaking down into tears. So Kasho put the training on hold to comfort Coconut, and he even asked her why the sudden change in how she speaks. She explains that she's not little anymore and had to grow up and act mature, but Kasho reassures her that she's fine the way she is and shouldn't force herself to become an adult so fast. She then thanks him, and after a deep breath, she finally completed her training. Kasho offered Coconut to stay for the night, and honestly, the wholesome vibes I get from these two is immaculate, and it's one of the reasons why this is my favorite volume. And even though she finally grew up a bit, both her and Azuki still end up squaring up. And here's another reason why this is my favorite volume of the series. Kasho decides to take Azuki out on a date, going as far as buying a yellow dress for her, which looks super cute on her. This man deadass took her on a fancy date as a way of thanking her for all the hard work around the bakery. And it's sweet to see these two have a good time, at least before they headed home, because as they did, Azuki once again started talking down on Coconut, except this time, Coconut was listening the entire time, which escalated into a heated argument, leading Azuki to snap, slapping Coconut in the face. And the poor main coon dashed out of the store in tears. Feeling guilty about it, both Kasho and Azuki rushed out after her. The suspense of this entry is pretty heavy. Seeing Coconut in a very, very vulnerable state was too much for me to take in after playing this for the first time. With how emotional she can get and how hard she tries to be a big help around the bakery, it's very hard to see her this depressed. I mean, Coconut is a kind and gentle soul that should be protected. And I admire her will to not only be a big sister towards Chocolate and Vanilla, but also to help out her big sisters and owners around the bakery. And to see both her and Azuki apologize to each other and make up in the end was the perfect closing to this suspenseful moment. The next day, Chocolate and Vanilla and Shigure finally returned home, only to see both Coconut and Azuki squaring up yet again. At least that's what we thought at first, but the two are actually getting along well. Kasho needed Azuki's help in baking and decorating a cake, with Coconut insisting on learning as well. And despite her best efforts into decorating, it wasn't enough. Luckily, Azuki saved the cake in time, with Coconut showering her with praise. A bit too much praise if you ask me, but well deserved. And seeing Azuki so embarrassed from Kasho having his arms around her while helping her crack an egg is just too adorable. And then Chocolate and Vanilla coming out of nowhere to tease their older sisters just made the scene even more enjoyable, claiming that both Coconut and Azuki have feelings towards Kasho. And well, let's just say they're not wrong for making that claim. During nighttime, Kasho couldn't resist Coconut's feminine charms, complimenting her boobs and her tushy. He just can't stop thinking naughty thoughts around her no matter how hard he tried. Her affection is just too strong, and I can't blame him one bit, and neither can Chocola, because later on, she would help Coconut take the next leap. And both Kasho and Coconut are finally an item. And if you're playing the 18 plus version, you know exactly what happens next. But I kind of like the all ages version just a little more. I mean, seeing Coconut so embarrassed but happy to be with Kasho is way too adorable. And despite her sexy appearance, she's such a big cutie deep down. And her laid up in Kasho's bed while wearing one of his shirts again, oh yeah, she definitely had the biggest victory of all her sisters. As for Azuki, well, her and Kasho were working as usual when a bowl of custard was close to falling on Azuki. Kasho saved Azuki in time, but some of the custard fell onto his hand and on the munchkin cat girl's face. And surprisingly, she ended up licking and slurping on Kasho's custard covered hand, completely indicating that she's in heat. Yeah, very lewd coming from Azuki. And with the help of Vanilla, Azuki finally confesses to Kasho, and the two ended up sharing an intimate moment together. And if you watch the 18 plus version, well, you all know. And now Azuki's all laid up in Kasho's bed with his shirt on. But the 18 plus version makes it a bit funnier because she's implying that Kasho really clapped her cheeks hard. Still, I admire Azuki's attempt at trying to be more honest and less tsundere-ish.
Hey brother! Let's say Nekopara!
And it's only a matter of time before Kasho gets to Cinnamon and Maple. Like I said before, Volume 2 is my absolute favorite entry in the series. From the sweet and gentle interactions between Kasho and Coconut to the suspenseful scene between Coconut and Azuki, and just having them both go through so much good character development is amazing to see. Especially from Coconut, because she's pretty much the MVP of the story. Easily the best volume of the 6 in my opinion. With the success of Nekopara Volume 2, it was only a matter of time before the 4th main entry made its way. And on May 23rd of 2017, Nekopara Volume 3 was released, now focusing on Cinnamon and Maple, as well as their deep friendship. I'm going to try and go through this story as quickly as I can because this goes on for almost 8 hours. When I recorded Volume 1, it was over 5 hours, and Volume 2 only lasted for 3.5 hours, assuming you're playing on a console version. When compared to Volume 3, the first 2 volumes had a healthy amount of runtime with rarely any filler added. Volume 3 not only had filler scenes, but some scenarios dragged for a certain amount of minutes. But that might have to do with the major differences between the PC version and the console version. For each entry on the consoles, dialogues had to be altered, scenes had to be removed, and for Volume 3, extra scenes were added, making the runtime being almost 8 hours. I think it would have been better if they gave a bit more time on a console release and not make it this long. Sure, it makes up for the $15 price tag, but in my opinion, it could have just been less than 6 hours. I still recommend it though, and it's still an amazing volume. It's a busy day for La Soleil, and I can't believe Azuki was about to risk shutting down the damn bakery just from cat punching a little girl in the face after being called a potty mouth. And you know she's in the wrong when her own little sister Coconut is holding her back. Later on, we see Kasho, Cinnamon, and Maple on their way home after a delivery. And at nighttime, Chocolate and Vanilla wanted to cook for Kasho for once. And while they did succeeded in doing so, they ended up eating everything without even noticing. But Kasho just laughed it off and will look forward to their next meals. But next time. The next day, everyone spent their day off in an amusement park. And goddamn, I did not expect Coconut to be this scared of a ride. Now, put her in the ring of fire and she'll definitely be traumatized. But I think Maple had it the worst, going through a tunnel of ghosts in the dark, and Cinnamon's not helping with the situation, offering to switch her panties with Maple's in case the latter was herself. What a freaky ass Scottish foe she is. Kasho decides to look through Shigure's blog and notice an old video of Maple and Cinnamon dressed as magical girls while singing a song from an anime called Neko Witches when they were just little kittens. And they would notice that the park is hosting a Neko Witches stage performance, so Cinnamon convinced Maple to check it out with her. But surprisingly, Cinnamon would end up being the damsel in distress for the show, with Maple being roped into singing the theme song of Neko Witches, that poor American girl being forced to sing an old anime song out of her own free will. And despite the praise she got, she ended up feeling down in the dumps. Cinnamon tried to cheer her up, but to no avail. And while it was good to see her reach out to Kasho for help, she just made the scene more funny. Girls asking to see Kasho's laptop just to look at. She is not fooling anyone with that face. So after that little horny scene, Kasho took Maple out at night to try and talk to her, and he tells his story on why he wanted to become a patisserie. He was actually raised to make Japanese sweets to the point where he was forced into giving up school activities, but he realized that he wanted to make sweets that'll make people happy. Of course, his dad did not approve of it, but that didn't stop him from chasing his dream. Hearing this, Maple gave Kasho and Cinnamon her thanks as they encouraged her into singing again. Yes, Cinnamon made her way there, following Kasho and Maple. So the next day, with the help of Kasho and Cinnamon, Maple was able to get herself an acoustic guitar and wasted no time practicing it. Afterwards, Cinnamon needed help with her bra issue, as her current one keeps hugging her badonkers so tightly. So she ropes Kasho into taking her to go bra shopping. And the amount of flirting she's doing around Kasho is too adorable. But what's not adorable is her trying to support Maple in the shadows, which isn't really something a best friend would do. To the point where Kasho and Maple had to confront her about it, telling her that she should live her own life in her own dream. And she even had to remind her about the promise they made back when they were kittens, promising to be together and stay by each other's side. So with everything settled, Cinnamon decided to work on music alongside Maple. This next set of scenes goes for nearly an hour, and it focuses on Coconut and Azuki spending time with Kasho. Hell, they went as far as putting on sexy two-piece swimsuits to wash his back, with Coconut insisting that Azuki should rub his front with her pillows. Yeah, I think Coconut was a bit too horny that night. She even wanted to do the naughty afterwards, which is insane. How does this girl have so much energy? I don't know. I also love how Cinnamon offers up her boobs as a way of thanking Kasho and Maple for helping her buy a keyboard. She is such a freaky yet lovable cat girl. During the afternoon, both Maple and Cinnamon started practicing with their new instruments. And during their practice session, Cinnamon couldn't resist the Pocky game just to snag a kiss from Maple. Twice. But Maple would have something else to worry about, because Kasho's old college friend is hosting an after party and she wants him to serve dessert and for Maple to perform. And at first she was hesitant to take the offer, but with Kasho and Cinnamon's encouraging words, she eventually accepts it, with Cinnamon now performing by her side. So they started prepping for the upcoming party, and good lord, I know Cinnamon's Cinnabuns are big, but are they really too big to fit in that dress? Or is she having trouble trying to put it on? Either way, this along with Kasho accidentally walking in on Maple as she's doing her cat lady business in the bathroom were some comical moments, I'm not gonna lie. And as the party was about to begin, with the whole family in attendance, an asshole of a guest ends up talking down on the cat girls, going as far as shoving Maple on purpose. And Kasho was ready to throw hands because he was not about to let the disrespect towards his cat girls slide. Thankfully, Cinnamon and Maple stopped them in time and thanked them for standing up for them. As the party started, the two cat girls would begin their performance, and they really did an amazing job. I really do like it, and trust me, those are tears of joy and relief after performing in front of a lot of people at an important party. Anyone would feel that nervous trying to do that. And finally, despite them being a bit drunk, both Maple and Cinnamon offered to be Kasho's cat pinions. Y'all thought Wise was the only one with Riz? Look at Kasho sweeping cat girls off their feet. He might as well call himself the cat girl king, because now he has 6 cat girls as lovers. So to cool off from the champagne, they went into the pool, and damn do both Maple and Cinnamon look stunning in their swimsuits. Kasho's quite the lucky guy to have 2 sexy cat girls hugging his arms. And I think it's super cute to see Maple trying to get some affection from Kasho. She's so adorable when she's shy and embarrassed. The two, along with Cinnamon, will go on their first date together, from taking photos together to singing a love song for Kasho in front of a crowd. Seriously, both him and Maple were embarrassed, especially Kasho, since he's being pressured into doing more with Maple thanks to Cinnamon. But after finally telling Kasho how she truly feels, Maple finally scored a kiss with him. I really wish Cinnamon would also kiss him, but I'm satisfied with this. And so the volume ends with Kasho finally having all 6 cat girls as his lovers. My apologies if I missed something out of this whole volume, but like I said before, this runs for almost 8 hours, and I was heavily drained just going through this volume yet again. But either way, there were some really good moments out of this. I did enjoy this volume a lot. Not on the level of Volume 2. I still think Volume 2 is my favorite of the entire franchise, but Volume 3 is still a good volume. Nearly 5 years ago, Nekopara Volume 4 was released. This time, the focus is on Kasho, as we're introduced to returning and new characters for the story. I actually got this game recently this year, and I haven't touched it yet until now when recording this whole volume. And thankfully, it's not as long as Volume 3. No, Volume 4 lasts for less than 6 hours on the Switch, with the PC version lasting exactly 6 hours. And the graphics and art style has also had a major upgrade. The old art style was really good enough, but in Volume 4, the characters have that sort of glossy, stylish look. An amazing upgrade to the graphics and art style nonetheless. As winter made its way, we can see the cat girls in winter uniforms, and La Soleil became even more popular than before. Shigure arrives at the bakery and will request Kasho to make a birthday cake for their mother. This will shock him as well as Azuki, Maple, and Cinnamon due to them knowing about the history between Kasho and his father. You see, his father wanted him to run the family business. However, Kasho was against running the business, and so he studied abroad in France to spend some time away from his family as well as to broaden his outlook. And if you play Volume 3 before Volume 4, you'll know he tried to talk to his dad about it, but he did not approve of his decision. But that didn't stop Kasho from getting the funds needed to open his shop. Kasho and his cat girls arrived at home, meeting Shigure there as they prepare everything for their mom's birthday party. And it's kind of hard to believe Awayuki's the mother of Kasho and Shigure. She kind of looks more like an older sister to Shigure. Then again, Miyuki's mom looks more like an older sister to her, but I digress. So it's all nice and fun as everyone's celebrating Awayuki's birthday, but then it happened. Kasho and Shigure's father, Suhama Minaduki, has arrived, and tension would rise between father and son, to the point where Suhama refused to try out the cake that Kasho baked, believing that his baking skills have no core to it. And after trying out the whipped cream Suhama made, Kasho stormed out the house, feeling completely defeated. But Chocolate and Vanilla followed and comforted him during that night. The next day, the family arrived at a hot spring inn for some R&R. This makes me question how Coconut could eat so much and maintain a sexy figure. But the best moment was seeing Maple and Vanilla in a heated ping pong match, and I can't take Vanilla seriously here. Not just because she's kicking Maple's ass in ping pong, but also her smug ass face. She is so funny sometimes. I also love how Azuki and Coconut insist on washing Kasho's back for a second time, even go as far as to kiss him. Shortly after, Kasho and Azuki went on a walk, telling Azuki that he believes to be lacking in something after thinking about what happened between him and his father. And the next day, he even let Maple taste test a Christmas cake he made. And while she thinks it's delicious, he believes that it's mostly plain. So he made a second cake, but ended up having good feedback on both cakes. However, he would end up being in even more of a slump, believing that the support and cheers he would get from his sister and cat girls is just adding more pressure onto him. But instead of feeling upset at him, both Maple and Cinnamon feel very sorry for Kasho, believing that their efforts in helping him wasn't enough after everything he's done for them. So they tried to find a way for Kasho to take a breather. So they decided to give Kasho a massage, along with some stress-relieving smooches. And he would come to a decision that could help him majorly. He decided to visit his teacher in France for 3 days to find the answer he's looking for. In addition, he would let Maple run the shop until he gets back from his trip. And Maple had to make sure he wouldn't cheat on them with another cat girl. And right when he made it to France, he would run into Shigure, who followed him on the way here. Okay, did no one question the fact that a little girl was able to travel from Japan all the way to France? I guess Shigure is just built different, I suppose. Soon they meet a young chinchilla Persian cat girl named Phrase, who just so happens to be an apprentice of Kasho's teacher, Beignet. And despite coming all the way to see his old teacher, Beignet made it clear that she has nothing left to teach him. But this didn't stop them from helping out with French La Soleil. I like how Shigure wants to take Phrase home with her after how much they've interacted with each other. I mean, I don't blame her though. Phrase is a pretty cute cat girl that's both sweet and shy at the same time. But Shigure really needs to take a chill pill considering that she's sleeping in the same bed with Kasho. Now the next day, Kasho would make green tea Mont Blanc and some macarons, something that would help Phrase fully remember Kasho. When she was just a kitten, Kasho made a macaron for her to have, and fast forward to the present day, she finally remembers him. Shortly after, Beignet tells them the reason behind her making pastries. She had a husband and son, and she named her shop La Soleil because of her son telling her she's like the sun. However, she was forced to leave Japan, and she originally had her older brother take over her shop, but he unfortunately passed away early, and she didn't want to leave her parents behind, so she decided to go back. And while her husband was okay with it, her son, however, wasn't. Keep this story in mind as it'll be very relevant later on. And this was a really sad story regardless. With their trip coming to an end, Kasho and Shigure says their goodbyes, heading back to where the cat girls are as Kasho finally understands what it means to make sweets to put a smile on people's faces. And I was not expecting to see some Yuri moments between Chocolate and Vanilla. The two siblings finally made it home, and Kasho would thank his cat girls for supporting him the whole way through. The next day, they started selling sweets on Christmas Eve, and god damn, oh, okay, Coco, okay. My girl is cheeked up, man, oh my god. And holy hell did Milk grow so fast. She's nearly as tall as Coconut, and yeah, she's never gonna forget the time Coconut saved her from getting hit by a car. She definitely grew fond of her a lot. And just hearing Kasho mention Phrase was enough for all 6 of the cat girls to get suspicious. They were ready to interrogate his ass. Then they closed up shop for the night to celebrate Christmas Eve with Awayuki. And during the festivities, Suhama arrives and would be offered to try one of Kasho's cakes that he made for everyone. And just one bite was enough for him to finally approve of Kasho's cakes. Awayuki reassures Kasho that Suhama has already approved of his decision. And remember the story Beignet told about her leaving her husband and son behind to stay with her parents? Well, it turns out that husband happens to be Kasho's grandfather, and her son is Suhama. So yes, Beignet is actually Kasho's grandmother. That was a major shock to me. The lore the story provides is immaculate, I tell ya. And it makes sense for Beignet and Suhama to not reunite right now, as things wouldn't get better at that point. Maybe someday they'll see each other again. So with everything settled, the entire family took a photo together. And just when Chocolate and Vanilla had Kasho to themselves, the rest of the cat girls barged in, requesting to have some attention as well. And they all played rock, paper, scissors to determine who can kiss Kasho first. So Vanilla was up first, then Cinnamon, and Maple, Coconut, Azuki, and the first cat pinion going last, of course, Chocolate. They all had their fill of attention. And on Christmas Day, La Soleil has been bombarded with customers to the point where they're in a major decline in cakes and other pastries. Luckily, Shigure arrived in time, but instead, she announces that she wants to become a live-in worker, meaning that she wants to live with Kasho and work alongside him full time. And knowing that she wouldn't take no for an answer, Kasho greatly accepts having her live with him, Chocolate, and Vanilla. But it ain't just Shigure, all the cat girls will be living with him as well. And now, the Minaduki family will be living together once again. When recording Volume 4, I was extremely worried about the length of it after my stressful time going through Volume 3. I'm sorry, but 8 hours on a volume is just too much for me. But I'm very satisfied with Volume 4 being less than 6 hours long on a Switch version. It's easily my second favorite volume of the 6 so far. And it's cool to see Kasho be the main focus of the story. I actually enjoyed it a lot, and I do think this should be the proper length for the console version of future volumes. It took a lot out of me to make this review on the series, because I wasn't just gonna go through each game very quickly. I had to record and cover every story from each entry, and I'm not gonna lie, By the time I got to the second half of Volume 3, I was mentally and physically drained due to the volume being almost 8 hours. While I am a bit annoyed by the length of Volume 3, I will never deny or downplay the success this series has gained. Last year, the series sold over 6 million copies, and with the upcoming release of Nekopara After, there's a chance that the series may reach 7 million sales this year. It definitely deserves it after how well and executed each entry was. From the character development to each main character to the amazing character designs, the jiggle physics, the storytelling, and the wonderful soundtrack. The music is so good to listen to, and every track accommodating with the mood of each scene was well executed. Nekopara is easily the most popular series in all the visual novels. I mean, come on, 7 games, a Nekopara Catboy spin-off, an upcoming spin-off centering on doll girls, an anime adaptation, and now an upcoming mobile game. They've definitely benefited from this franchise, and should you feel the need to try these games out, they're on Steam, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. Just don't bother with the PS4 version because I heard that the chest bounciness feature was removed due to Sony's bullshit censorship policy. But if that doesn't bother you one bit, then you have nothing to worry about. They're each $15, so if you're interested, don't hesitate to get them. If you're still on the fence, wait for a sale before playing them. But I do recommend playing them because they're good and amazing games to play and witness. An amazing mixture of wholesomeness and lewdness. Nekopara 1 gets an 8.5 out of 10, Volume 0 gets a 9 out of 10, Volume 2 gets a 10 out of 10, Extra gets an 8 out of 10, Volume 3 gets a 9 out of 10, Volume 4 gets a 9.5 out of 10, and for the full series, it gets a 9 out of 10. A solid franchise created by one woman and a company. But hopefully the next review doesn't take as long as this one to complete. I can't believe this gone over 40 minutes. Oh my, Jesus Christ. This is my longest review I've ever done. So I'm hoping that the next review doesn't take as long as this one to complete. But you'll have to wait and see. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed, and I would really appreciate it if you all would leave a like on the video and subscribe, as well as turn those notifications on. I put so much work and so much time into this review just to get it out for you guys, so I would really appreciate the feedback, and I would also appreciate you guys leaving a like on the video, as well as giving me your comments on what you think of this series so far. I personally enjoyed it, but I would like to hear your experiences if you played the games before. But if you haven't already, again, I would highly recommend you do so. But until then, this is Star the Protagonist signing out. As always, Goki Genyo, and have a Startastic day, everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, then be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn those notifications on to join the Star Nation. Also, be sure to follow my Twitter, and while you're at it, check out my previous video. Now.